few select individuals who are still making good money in the real estate business. The question is, what are they doing? If we just break down the simplicity of what actually generates money that we can control, what is that? Like, what is one thing that we can control?
The amount of time we spend
Time and the
prospecting.
number of calls.
Time on the phones, right? Which will lead to what? Generation of leads. Great. And again, I know this becomes elementary, but the number one players in this industry, the people who make a ton of money, right? The big time money, which is what I actually want to talk about today, which is like how to make big time money in this industry. But the biggest players, which I'm going to kind of dissect, at least what I've been learning from people who are making over $20 million a year in the real estate business on the broker side. I'm just going to break down a few things because I'm having conversations with people, the biggest players in the industry. So I just wanted to share with you guys a few things that I'm learning. But the one biggest thing that we can control at any level in this industry, whether you're trying to make your first 6 figures, 7 figures, or what have you, is that you can generate leads, right? Like that's in your control. And the more leads that you generate, you're probably going to come across more opportunities in that regard. And then the more opportunities or leads that you generate, the more deals you probably will close. I mean, again, this is not freaking rocket science, people, right? I'm a 2-time college dropout who's been making 7 figures since I was 26 years old, right? Like, thank God this does not take, being a rocket scientist to make money, because I probably wouldn't be doing very well. This is the simplest industry on planet Earth. And especially in the commercial real estate world, it becomes even simpler, because not only is it just about generating leads, like residential is about just getting listings, commercial is really just about getting decent deals, right? Because the better the deal, the easier it is to sell, right? That's the simplicity of this game. The question is, do you know what's a good deal and what's a bad deal? I want us just to be thinking about I'm going to be, just share with you a couple of the key things that I've been learning from a couple of these really, top players, things I'm trying to implement, right? Things I'm working on right now. This way you guys can kind of implement that into your business. But one of the biggest things is, if you're struggling right now where your next paycheck is because you're, number one, not spending enough time on the phone, not calling the right lead lists, because that means you're not generating enough leads. That's the simplicity of this game. Because if you had enough leads right now, right, you would not be complaining. But the biggest reason why you're not making the money you want is because you don't have enough leads, right? This week alone, my team has been yelling at me to post more on X, tweet, or my X. I don't know what the heck they call it these days. I'm not that computer savvy. My newest post recently, which was talking about today, let me see if I can bring it up real fast. I just basically said that I'm working on over $200 million worth of deals right now in negotiating. Right, I'm negotiating over $200 million worth of deals right now. And what happens is when you have a crazy amount of deal flow, you don't feel so pressured about making money. But the problem is when you don't have any deal flow, you feel a lot of pressure. And what I wrote after that, which is what I want to talk about today, and is actually what I'm going to be speaking about in Las Vegas. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of like a behind the scenes, kind of like what I'm thinking about talking about here, which is like the simplicity of how to make more money in this industry. And I'm not talking about an extra $50,000 or an extra $100,000. I'm talking about how to make like FU money in this industry, okay? Pardon my French. So I just want to talk about what I've been learning from that. And to break it down, it comes from the few things here, which is focusing on higher prices, focusing on double-ending more deals, which is earning higher commission percentages per deal, selling more transactions, which obviously is probably the most obvious one. And then the other one, the last piece here, is having more agents on your team than the next person. So I want to break all these pieces down for you guys. Number one is higher prices. Right now, whatever your average sales price, and I know I keep talking about these things, but this is what works, right? These are like, I'm talking to a guy who's on track to do somewhere between 20 and $22 million in GCI and gross commissionable income. Crazy numbers. This person has 100 plus people on his team, 100 plus people on his team. Now, some of you guys are wondering how to make over 7 figures. Well, the answer is you're probably not going to do that by yourself. Like, your business will probably look very different when you're making 7 figures than it does today. And any person I've ever met who makes over 7 figures in this industry, net, I'm not just talking about gross commissionable income, right? I'm talking about net in their pocket every year, has a sizable team. So if you are thinking that you're going to get to $1 million a year by yourself, I would probably think again. I just haven't seen it. I've never seen it where someone nets $1 million a year with nobody else on their team besides themselves. Okay, and I'm not saying you need 100 plus people on your team to make $1 million a year, but I am saying you need to have it in your head. I want to make $1 million. It looks different than what I have today. So I need to be recruiting people. And I'm not saying that if you're currently doing, if you're on track to make like 100 or 200 grand, you're probably not going to go recruit 10 or 15 people. But if you're already making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, you need to be thinking about bringing on people in order to get to the 7-figure mark, right? Like, the only way to get to that to get to over $1 million is you need to have a big team. I mean, this guy, again, to do 20 million in GCI, you need to have a huge team, right? You need to have a lot of people, right? If you want to do big numbers, you need to have a lot of people. It's important to pay attention, like, hey, like, let's just mimic what has worked for so many people in this industry. If you want to make $1 million a year and your average sales price is $3 million, you can do 10 deals, maybe 10 to 12 deals at 3 to 6% commission and you can make over $1 million a year. But very few people are actually doing that consistently. That's where the other few things comes to mind. Because, right, like the biggest thing I'm hearing and the biggest thing I'm trying to work on is scaling the team out, right? I want to have more agents by the end of this year than I do at the end of than I did the end of last year. Because I'm trying to shoot for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars. Like that's where we're going. And that will take, it's like recruitment, like it's like the brokerage business. Like it's a revolving door of salespeople. Like salespeople don't last forever. I mean, good players do, but it's it's constantly bringing in great talent. The other pieces of this, which is more suitable for most of you on this call, which is your controllables are increasing your average sales price and increasing your average commission percentage on every deal possible. For those of you guys who are making somewhere like 200 grand plus, this is something that will easily double your income. This is what doubled my income in a year, which is focused on doubling my average price point and making sure I double end every transaction. So obviously it started with prospecting and generating more leads. But for a lot of you guys, it's like, hey, how can I focus on if I'm selling hypothetically and I'm prospecting $1 million deals, how do I prospect $2 to $3 million deals going forward? If I'm doing $500,000 deals, how do I prospect $1 million to $2 million deals? And constantly working on increasing your price point. And I'm saying drastically increase your price points, people. Like 50 to 100% minimums. I'm not saying 5%. 5% growth is nothing. Most agents work on 5% growth and they don't actually purposefully work on it. What they do is they just rely on appreciation to increase their average sales prices. That was me years ago. I just relied on appreciation to help me increase my average sales price. I'm saying specifically prospect a different product. If you're only doing deals where your average deal is like 2 to 3 million bucks because you're only prospecting, the 5 to 20 unit range, then spend a little bit of time, maybe one day a week, prospecting for larger deals. Because if you're not going to do it, nobody else is. And if you ever want to make more than $1 million a year and you're only doing deals between $1 million and $2 million, you're still relying on the fact of doing 10, 20, 30 transactions a year. Where it's like, look, every single year you guys should be able to do a much larger deal, do a $5 or $8 or $10 million deal where you double end and all of a sudden you make 500 grand. If you're not going to prospect a little bit, like at least one day a week, a few hours a week maybe on the larger deals, that's what it's all about. Just spending a little bit of time. And like I said, even for those individuals who are on the residential side and trying to do more on the commercial side, you spend one day a week prospecting commercial. And then once you close a deal, then it becomes 2. And then it becomes, and then you close another deal. Then it becomes 3 days a week. And you slowly, as you're packing the pipeline, building your lead pipeline, and you're closing more and more deals, that way you can spend more and more time prospecting heavier and heavier deals, or bigger and bigger deals. The big things to be paying attention to is like, what are the biggest players looking after? Like if you want to make an extra 50 grand this year, right? If your goal is 100, or if you made 100 last year and you want to make 150 this year, you really don't got to do much different than maybe prospect for an extra maybe 30 minutes to an hour on average a day, and you'll probably do that. You could sell 1 or 2 extra deals this year and make an extra 50 grand. But if you're trying to make an extra 250, 300, 500 grand, an extra $1 million this year, it will cause you doing something drastically different in your business. And you have to give up what you already know. Give up the old levels of thinking. Give up what you think is accurate. If you want to make a substantially more amount of money than you did the previous year, it will take doing something completely different. That doesn't just mean prospecting an extra hour a day, right? Prospecting an extra hour a day might make you an extra 20% in income. And that's what most people do. And obviously, if you're not prospecting in general, at least 2 to 3 hours a day, I would start there. But that's one piece of a large puzzle, right? Alex Hormozi talks about if you want to make substantially more money, it's 100 golden BBs, not one golden bullet, right? Or not one silver bullet, right? It's several things you're doing better than the rest. So yes, you should be prospecting more so you can generate more leads. You should be working on your your communication skills and your scripting ability so you have a higher conversion rate than the average agent. On top of that, you should be prospecting slightly larger deals than the average. You should be working on having a great buyers list so you can double end 80+% of your deals. You should be working on recruiting all the time in your business so you constantly are bringing on more talent so you don't just have to rely on your own personal income. You should also be always thinking like an investor so you can be every single year drop a few bucks in one of the deals that you end up closing so you have a great write-off. Because think about how cool that is. You have to understand, if you make 250 grand a year and you're in any average state of tax bracket, you're going to pay $50,000 in taxes. So if you can save $50,000 in taxes by investing one commission check a year into a real estate deal and then get a cost segregation study on that property and then save $50,000 in taxes, that's like selling an extra piece of real estate. So it's like you basically just saved yourself 50 grand. That means you saved in your net pocket an extra 50,000 bucks. So it's like doing an extra deal if you just invest in real estate. And many of you guys are not paying attention to that factor. And all of a sudden you're coming to tax time and you're Mark Cuban, who's super excited to spend 280. You know why Mark Cuban was excited to write a $288 million? I don't know if you guys saw the post where he cut the check to the IRS for $288 million and he's super excited about it. You know why he did that? He just sold his majority stake in the Mavericks for $3.5 billion cash. So by the way, that $288 million check that he wrote to the IRS is peanuts in comparison to what he made last year. $3.5 billion worth of income, and he paid less than 10% in taxes. He's thrilled to be paying $288. Matter of fact, if it could have been less, I'm sure he would have done it. So the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, look, even Mark Cuban only paid freaking 8%. 7% of the income, right? Imagine if you only had to pay 7% or less in taxes every year. That's one less property you have to sell. But that's because he knows how to, he knows the tax code better than most. Most billionaires will. Billionaires are not overpaying in taxes. Come on now. And it's important for you to realize, like, the only people who are overpaying in taxes are people who don't understand the tax code and don't invest in real estate, or don't invest. I want to take some questions from you guys. Like, these are just a few key things that I'm working on. I'm working on every single year or every quarter, really pushing my average price point up, making sure on average we're taking 5+% commissions on every single deal that we possibly can. On top of that, we're constantly looking at selling more deals than the year before. We're constantly looking to increase that percentage rate. And then every single year, we're constantly looking to add more agents to the team. If you follow that pattern, it's very hard to not make more money every year. It's near impossible, by the way. It's almost impossible. If this year, if you sold more real estate this year than you did the year before, which I'm saying one deal, I'm not saying 70 more deals. I'm saying one extra deal this year than you did the year before. You increase your average price point. Again, not by hundreds of percentage points. I'm saying by even 10, 20, 30%. If you, on average, double end as many deals as you possibly can as possible. In the commercial world, it's very common to double end almost every single deal. So we try to shoot for at least 80% plus on my team. And every year we try to recruit and have more agents on the team than the year before. That is the simplicity of earning more and more money in this industry than the year before. That is the simplicity of this game, which obviously comes from also generating more leads. I want to do everything, right? I want to have more calls than the year before, have more conversations than we did the year before, generate more leads than we did the year before. Every single metric you possibly can track, we want to do better than the year before or even the quarter before. But sometimes if you just look over a 90-day period of time, you might have it down because real estate, obviously, sometimes, in the winter time, depending on what location you're at, you might have a little bit lesser of a month than you did the quarter before, right? But that's why you have to look over a long enough time horizon. So all we're going to continue to drive in or dive into is those key pillars. How do we work on each one of those metrics and increase it by 5, 10, 20% every year? That's it overall. Because if you work on each one of those percentage points and you increase it by 5, 10, 20% every year, you will have drastic multiples in your net income every year. That way you'll have enough cash sitting in your bank account, hopefully by June, July, or August, so you can buy a property before the end of the year, do a cost segregation study, and this way you have a huge write-off the year afterwards. That's what I want for all of you. I want you guys to make enough money where you can buy enough property every year where you pay no taxes. That's what we all dream of. Just making a ton of money and paying paying little to no taxes and building our wealth bucket, right, by owning more and more real estate every year.